I'm going to make you imagine a smell and make you imagine a flavor. You've popped something kind of crispy in your mouth. As you bite into it, it tastes and feels a little bit softer. Hang on a second, it's stale. That's right, you're eating a pre-packaged bag of popcorn that you bought from the counter of the last video store. That bag of popcorn has been sitting there for God knows how long. That's right, God is the only being in existence that knows how long that popcorn has been on the counter, and you just ate it, and guess what? You fucking loved it, dude. So, that is what you're bringing into your mind as you enter the last video store. This show, where me, Alexei, talks to interesting people about their favorite movies in the style of an old school video store rental combo. On the show this week, we have got one of my dearest and best and most treasured friends, the chef, Mitch Orr. That's right, the Grandmaster of the Grill, the Prince of Pasta, and the Wizard of Woodfire. Mitch Orr is on the show. Mitch, you may know, is the chef partner at KILN, the incredible restaurant on top of the Ace Hotel in Sydney. He's also the creative director of Prince Dining Room in Melbourne in St Kilda, and his food is inspired. The stuff that he creates is so beautiful, and it evokes those same feelings that I try to do on this show. I would say his signature dish is a dish that is a Jats. It's a snack. He's all about those snacks. It's a Jats biscuit, a little cracker with a smoked butter and then an anchovy delicately laid on top. When you bite into it, it's one of those things that's so simple, but it takes you back to, for me at least, those first little snacks I'd make for myself when I came home from school and be watching TV, and especially movies on the TV. I'm just getting a Jats and going, you know what? Let's play. Let's figure out how to load this up. Usually, for me, it would be tara masalata, a Greek caviar dip. And so, that's what I feel when I eat that beautiful treat. Mitch is one of my best friends. We talk about movies a lot. In fact, I would say this. When it comes to me recommending movies, the person that benefits most from that is Mitch. Because when I'm watching something good at home, usually he's the guy I'm texting go, have you seen this, bro? Put it on your radar. This movie rocks. So we're going to be seeing it live in the room right now on the last video store. And a little promo for something. Mitch and I have been doing a screening series at the Golden Age Cinema in Sydney called Cuisine on Screen. Our favorite food movies. We've talked about Goodfellas as a food movie. We kicked things off with the new French film Taste of Things. And we've got a very special pairing of two films on the 20th of June at the Golden Age Cinema. These are two documentaries. We've paired them together because they both talk about, I'd say, diasporic foods that have evolved over time in America. The first film is Italian American by Martin Scorsese. It is a documentary just under an hour in length that is about his family. It is about his mother, Catherine, his father, Charles, and him. And it's all filmed while his mother is making dinner for them. And they're talking about their culture. They're talking about their connection to food, their Italian heritage. Beautiful film. And we paired that with Yum Yum Yum, A Taste of Cajun and Creole Cooking by Les Blanc. And that is an gorgeous film. If you don't know much about Cajun food, it is the way to be invested into it for the first time. Cajun food is this interesting mix of French diasporic cuisine as it merges with soul food cuisine and also like deep South American cooking traditions. So it's an incredibly unique cuisine, and I think these two movies paired together are very special. So that is the 20th of June at the Golden Age Cinema. We've got the link in the show notes. So if you want to come see it, click on through, buy a ticket. It comes with a free glass of wine as well. So have a glass of wine on us. And I can't wait to see you there. And I cannot wait to get into Mitch's new release, his two weeklies, and then a bespoke customized recommendation based on his tastes. Let's get into it.
The last video store.
Wow, we Kazawi. Look who has shown up into the rainy, drip-infested Batuta studios today, but none other than the Prince of Pasta, the Grand Master of the Grill, and the Wizard of the Woodfire. It is Mitch Orr.
Nice to be here finally, Alexei.
Yes.
Nice to enter the store.
We've been waiting for you here, my friend. We've been waiting for you. We've been anticipating your arrival.
That's nice. That's nice.
I would say out of all of my true, real-life best friends, people that are my friends on and off the record, you are probably the one that benefits most from my film recommendations.
I try.
Yeah, but you're one of the people I go, whenever I watch something, I go, Mitch would love this.
Yeah.
I text you in the
You
middle
tell
of
me,
watching it.
yeah.
It gets you.
I thought you were going to say I benefit most as being your +1 to all the film premieres more than anybody else.
I mean, that is true. You are like, especially when I go, man, we got this dog shit action movie. Do you want to come?
there.
And then we love
I'm
it,
there.
you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
That's it. You're my +1 for life, brother. My +1 for life.
Never been more honoured.
But I'm going to say this. Thank you for braving the storms. We've had a lot of adverse weather hitting the last video store here in Batuta. There is a drip that you may detect in the video and the audio of this episode. Every 1 second, I would say, a drip lands right next to my shoulder. But, you know, we're making do.
It's just a metronome to keep you on pace, bro.
Okay, when it hits to 50 drips, I'll know that time is up and we must finish the episode. But Mitch, now that you've arrived in the last video store, I would love to ask you, what is your history with video stores?
I mean, I'm 40 years old now, so I have a big, video stores were a big part of my childhood, for sure. It was a weekly...
Congratulations on
thank
turning the
you.
big 4-0,
Thank
by
you.
the way.
The 4th floor, yeah. I have... yeah, the video store was definitely a big part of my childhood. It was probably a once-a-week visit, if not more.
Wow, you got to return those weeklies after
That's
all.
true, that's true.
Yeah.
We used to spend Saturdays at my grandma's house in Seven Hills as a little kid, and we would always head to the Video Easy in Seven Hills. I think my memory is of it being a Video Easy, but I'm pretty sure it was about 4 different things over the lifespan of that store.
The evolutions of a video store.
Yeah, it might have ended up being a Blockbuster and closed before it closed.
Okay.
So that was a weekly trip and, browsing the aisles. And I think when I was quite young, like maybe 7, 8, that sort of age, it was always going to the wrestling section, the WWE section.
Did it have a whole section?
Whole section, bro, yeah, because there was obviously no...
Yeah, no pay-per-view back
Exactly.
in the day.
It was only shown on Wild World of Sports. They'd show like 2 matches or something like that. So if you wanted to see the big events... You had to go and pick up the VHS from the video store.
Wow.
So,
and do you think wrestling is sport because it played on that?
100%.
Or do you think it's theatre?
it's, what do they call it now? Sports entertainment or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they've coined the term. But I think it's definitely very athletic.
Absolutely.
And then there is the theatre and the ballet of it all as well.
Wow, the ballet. Who's your favourite ballerina in that case? Mine, probably Goldberg.
Goldberg. Really?
Yeah. Goldberg was the one that I loved growing up because I used to watch wrestling on like Fox 8 and I used to watch WCW on I don't know what channel.
Yeah.
And the one that there was a ring on WCW that I remember so vividly where it was like the ring, but it was in the middle of like a water feature and it was like this, it was surrounded by like
remember that
a
one at
lagoon
all.
pool, but it had like all these like rock structures and stuff, but it was all indoors. So it would have
I don't
smelled
remember that
like
one
an
at
indoor
all.
fucking pool, like completely chlorinated and stuff. But it's just what I remember. And I remember a wrestler trekking through the waters and stuff. Like,
I wonder
throwing each
what
other
pay-per-view that was. I don't remember that at all.
I've never been able to find it. So I'm like,
No.
what if this was a dream that I had? Like,
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
I watched
crazy.
Hook and I watched wrestling on the same night and I go back to sleep and that's what I imagine.
Wow.
So
wow.
what were the tapes you were getting of the wrestling?
I think it would have been like,
Smackdowns, Raws.
yeah, and then like WrestleManias and Royal Rumbles and stuff like that for sure. When I was a little kid, Ultimate Warrior was my favorite.
Wow.
I didn't know much about cocaine back then, but
Yeah. But he's a great way to learn about it.
yeah, definitely. But yeah, and then obviously through high school and stuff, the Attitude Era, was Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and probably my favorite all time is Undertaker though.
Wow.
I get goosebumps still when his music hits.
Wow.
The lights black out and then dum.
Even just mentioning I saw hairs erase. Your hairs on your chin just erasing up. Have you ever jumped into the world of feature film, like wrestling documentaries and stuff?
I've watched a couple, like the Monday Night Wars and more things that WWE has produced.
Propaganda.
Yeah, a little bit WWE.
Yeah.
Sort of when they launched the WWE Network, they put out a whole bunch of stuff. But I think to actually watch the Monday Night Wars, I think I had to buy 3 separate DVDs off very random Amazon accounts and have them shipped. And I'm pretty sure they're all bootlegged off American cable TV kind of thing,
Bootlegging is such a significant part of discovering the things that you love. I have to go on the record. Bootlegging is essential to finding the films and stuff you love for the rest of your life. There's some great docos about wrestling. There's one about Hitman Hart that's all about like the
Montreal Screwjob.
The Montreal Screwjob, and it's told so beautifully in that Hitman Hart documentary. And there's also another one called Beyond the Mat, which is like
Beyond the Mat.
Great doco.
Very good. Yeah.
And then the documentary about Glow, I think it's just called Glow, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. That inspired the TV show.
Yeah, I've watched the TV show, but I haven't watched the doco.
The doco was hard to find, but I've had to get a copy of it myself because I was like, I love documentaries. I love documentaries about wrestling. But that is really fantastic. It's better than the TV show, I reckon. But, that's what I think every movie's better than any TV show. So I can't be trusted with that opinion.
So biased.
So biased. So big shout out and a huge remembrance to Video Easy in Seven Hills. We miss you. We salute you. We miss you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your
formed
service.
a cinephile that's standing in front of me here today.
100%.
Well, baby, why don't you pop out to those freaking shelves? Because I'm going to give you the opportunity to pick out your dream rental combo. 1 year release film, any film from the last. I'm going to give you only 1 year to choose from. We're going down to 1 year because I know how often you go to the cinema. You've only got 1 year. That's our new release section for Mitch Orr. And then 2 weekly titles, 2 of your all-time favorite movies, and then I want to bestow upon you something that is not so rare in your life, but rare to have it on the record, a personalized, bespoke, customized recommendation based on your taste.
I love it.
And every single fucking thing I know about you.
That could get dangerous.
Yes, it's a detailed porno based on every kink that I've discovered from looking at your Instagram likes.
New release.
Oh, wowie. What a wonderful stack of films, a fat stack of flicks sitting here in front of me. We've got your new release first, mate. And I'm going to say this. It is a +1 special, a movie that we did see together in the cinema.
You were my +1, though.
Yeah, we did a little +1 69 where we did a one exchange for another. You got invited to an IMAX screening. I got invited to a VMAX screening. And we went twice, within 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, literally within 3 or 4 days.
The movie you have picked up is Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's Dune Part 2, the second half of the first
This is
novel.
Part 1 because Part 2's probably still showing, but...
Sci-fi.
You haven't even cracked this one, mate.
I've not even cracked it. This is a fresh release.
Freshie.
I said, whoever rents this shall be the first to bust its sleeve open. But tell me about Dune Part 2. Do you like it more than Dune Part 1?
I think so. I think Dune Part 1, seeing it in the cinemas was... I went and saw it by myself on a middle of the weekday. Just when I was, I'm not going to wait for anybody. I just want to go. I don't think you gave me a +1 for that premiere, so I had to go by myself.
I think it was coronavirus days.
Maybe it might have been. Yeah, you're right.
days. No +1s allowed on coronavirus days.
So yeah, I went by myself, and it was probably the most jaw-dropping cinema experience I'd had in a long time. It really took me back, speaking of the VHS box set that's sitting there, to almost that feeling I had watching Star Wars for the first time as a kid. Like,
you were swept up into another world. I was
swept up into another world.
Watch out, there's a vortex slurping up boys, and they're all going to the planet of Arrakis.
My Dune. But yeah, I think Part 2 is just really incredible filmmaking. There's, like, right from the start, the scenes, like, I think we're both sitting in IMAX just absolutely slack-jawed.
Yes.
That first scene of the Harkonnens just anti-gravitying up the...
Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry, a little spice went up into my system. As soon as you said the words Arrakis, the spice was flowing. Oh, a cute sneeze on the record today. Yeah, I think you're right. Like, it is as soon as you're being, like, engulfed in it. Like, it is like that sci-fi fantasy spectacle. And I would say, I'm right with you in that I like Dune Part Two. I love both of these movies, and sci-fi and fantasy are always the things I'm hardest on, especially like that kind of more fantasy and sci-fi that leads more into the sci-fi, because I'm like, I need to see something new. And to me, the craft level is the thing that you see new here. And the thing that I like more about Part Two is it kind of answered my I dare not say problems. May I say qualms? My qualms on Part One. Like, it was hard to detect the scale of the story because everything's so big. And it's all, when I say everything's so big, I mean the stakes are big, but because we're just living in a world of princes and barons, I'm like, I don't know who am I? Who's the video store hawk in this story? How can I relate to these stories? Like, when I say relate, I have empathy, so I can go, well, I can feel the things these guys are feeling, but how do I know what an everyday person is here? You know, I need those things like the Aladdin and Black Panther market store scene where you go, let's as the princes go into the markets and see how the
plebs.
That's it. I need to see the plebeians. I need to see how the plebeians are living their life. I need to see how the proletariat live. And then Dune Part Two, what I think does so well is now you get access to it, and you get access to it when you know, Timmy Chalamet gets access to it. He's thrown into that world, and he has to live with the what are they called?
The Fremen.
The Fremen. And that's the other thing. I tried getting into Dune when I was a kid, like reading the book. Page 1, I'm like, I gotta learn 20 new words.
Yeah, I think I've had Dune on my bookshelf for about 20 years. And I've probably read the first chapter about 14 times, and that's as far as I've gotten.
That's it.
But
you're like, I gotta have a glossary. I gotta have a bookmark at the glossary at all times.
I think because as a kid, Star Wars was my thing. So whenever there's an amazing piece of sci-fi fantasy, it sort of takes me back to being that young kid and discovering stuff. And I was very into the Star Wars world and lore. I had all the books. I was reading all the novels. I had all the diagram books that showed you the diagrams of how a Star Destroyer worked and the X-Wing and all that kind of stuff.
It's on the record, Mitch Orr knows who Prince Shizor is. The Feline Prince.
So I think anytime that a movie can show that scope and suck you into a world like that, and I think the thing about Dune is obviously there's so much CGI, but it feels real. I think there's a lot of practical effects as well, which goes back to why the first 3 Star Wars were so amazing. It was all practical effects.
You can imagine going into that world.
Yeah. And then, you know, the black and white scene on the Harkonnen planet with the ink blot.
Oh my God.
Firework explode.
Yes.
Like, just so original and unique and different. Is an incredible visual masterpiece.
Yeah.
And the soundscape as well, sitting in IMAX, and the sounds are literally vibrating you without 4DX, you know, but
that may be me. I was shaking you. I was shaking right next to you.
Okay.
No, but I agree. It is that, like that huge subwoofer sound is like, to me, an essential part of going to cinema, and like so much of that immersive quality of seeing a film on the big screen with a big audience. And I love that you mentioned like seeing that Harkonnen world, like that black and white aesthetic, because it goes hand in hand with that kind of political sci-fi stuff, like your Star Wars, science fantasy, all of those things, where you have that Leni Riefenstahl aesthetic, Triumph of the Wheel, the famous Nazi filmmaker Leni Riefenstahl. But, you know, that's the aesthetic where you have like these huge crowd scenes that are like very regimented. You see that square of people, and you see it's so often used, especially in sci-fi, like big sci-fi films. But here, I think the way of translating the Harkonnen world into black and white and it being real and not just an effect. There's something about that where it just was eye-widening for me, and it just, you go, oh, that, I was just like, the craft here is impeccable, and it makes you feel those real-life ramifications of seeing that footage in a very real way, because it's, you know, the aesthetic looks identical. That's that color palette that's coming through, and it's like there's something about that like it feels very not real, but it feels very heightened to the feelings of seeing those things. And I was like, that's impeccable. Like that's impeccable use of aesthetic to translate and commute a message. The other thing I love about it, let's talk Javier Bardem, babe. My God, what a great performance. He's basically doing Zorba the Greek.
He is having the time of his fucking life.
Everything that he's doing is like, you've got that lust for life. Yeah, that's it. Like everything about him, I love it. I love it. I don't even know what he's saying half the time. It's like, he's like, and I'm like, wow,
incredible
he's loving
performance.
it. Oh my God, give him the Oscar. Yeah. The Oscar for biggest wide-eyed performance. He nailed it. Any other thoughts on Dune Part 2, brother?
No, and it's the thing that I've seen most in cinema in quite a while as well.
How many times have you seen it? Because we saw it twice together. Are you adding more notches to your belt?
I've seen it 3 times.
3 times?
Yeah. Which I haven't done.
9 hours?
A long time.
Wow. A long time ago, perhaps. Galaxy far away.
Yeah. But just being in that world, and, you know, I really like Denis as a filmmaker as well. And just, I think as well, knowing the troubled history that people have had trying to adapt Dune, and then seeing it so fully realized, it's really incredible.
Have you seen that Jodorowsky's Dune?
I still haven't.
Maybe that's our
top
next
of my
session.
list. Yeah,
that's our next session together. We've got a Jodorowsky's Dune, one of the most fucking cooked productions in history.
Weekly.
Well, let's move on to those weekly picks, and what a beautiful stack of films we continue to have sitting in front of us.
Look at this.
I know, the first thing that's sitting in front of you right now is that deluxe Criterion 4K edition of a film by the brothers Hughes, Albert and Alan Hughes, Menace, Roman numeral 2, Society.
Crime.
This was one of my favorite movies as a teen, which is probably not great because it's so violent, and I probably didn't understand a lot of the messages back then. And I actually haven't watched it in a while. I'm probably due for a rewatch. But being a young kid in the western suburbs of Sydney, listening to rap music and, you know, really using the video store to sort of delve into this world of American gangster films, African-American gangster films like Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, Belly, Juice, New Jack City, King,
King of New York,
King
with
of New
Christopher
York.
Walken and Wesley Snipes. Is it Wesley Snipes? Oh, Lawrence Fishburne?
Fishburne.
Yeah, Fishburne.
What's the Wesley Snipes and Ice-T one?
That's New Jack
City.
Yeah.
New Jack City. All of those, and kind of not telling mum and dad what I was getting and that kind of thing, and coming home to watch them in my room. And just obviously as a silly little white boy living in middle class Australia, you know, but there is something so evocative, and there's so much passion and violence in these worlds that to a young male, you know, which is probably not a good thing, but it's so engulfing and so just grabs you and pushes your buttons, and, you know, it's so cool, as silly as that is to say, but this is such a brutal, violent film, but it's so well made, and it's so intriguing, and it's so real, and it doesn't pull any punches, and there are some incredibly quotable lines and all that kind of stuff, and then the cultural impact that it has when you then go into the satires based off it. Don't be a menace to South Central while sipping your juice in the hood, and those films and how they play on these characters that are so iconic in African American culture and in cinema. It's a really, really incredible movie. And
the way that translates to like hip hop culture as well, how informative it is of that. This I'm right there with you. Like, that was all the important stuff for me growing up. Like, that was also like my access point at the video store, was getting all of these movies. Like, I was a big Ice-T guy growing up.
Yeah.
The first album I ever bought with my own money was Ice-T's OG Original Gangster when I was maybe 11 years old.
That's very cool.
And I have no idea, like, what...
Do you know what the first CD I bought was?
What was that?
The soundtrack to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
They both have rap. They both have rap. But I remember, I don't even know like how I knew who Ice-T was when I was a kid. Like, I think I just saw it in the store and I was like, that looks cool. It was a guy I know, like,
it's not like he was on SVU, but
I think he would have been around the time he was on SVU, but I don't think I was I was too young to be watching SVU unless I was like, I've seen that guy on Channel 10 ads, I gotta get this. But I think it was just like he was wearing like these cool shades, this beanie, this tank top, like a chain. There was like pictures of cars and stuff on it. And I was just like, oh, and I know a gangster is cool. And I just saw the word gangster and like my dad was like, you can buy whatever you want with this. And I go, that's it. I'm choosing this. And I bought it and I loved it. And I think that was my jumping in point to gangster rap, to this kind of cinema. And I'm with you in that Menace to Society somehow, as a young person, it sits above the rest. Because at that time, obviously since then, like Boys in the Hood is one of my favorite movies. And I would have seen it before I saw Menace to Society. But there's something about Menace to Society that, you know, like Boys in the Hood, it's made by really young filmmakers. The Hughes brothers were 21 years old when they made this movie. And there's something in its... Like, there's a scrappiness to this movie.
Yeah, it's very gritty.
It's very gritty. The scrappiness kind of adds to that grittiness and the choppiness to make it feel really urgent. Yeah. And it's this, like, I would use the same things for Boys in the Hood, but there's something about Menace to Society where it's like this saga scale where you kind of like... there is a little bit more of Godfather in there or something. There's a little bit more of that kind of like bigger studio quality to this. That just something about like the mix of that aesthetic with this really urgent young filmmakers trying to make something. And the Hughes brothers are like so talented. Like they're so naturally talented filmmakers and they're so technically talented as well that the quality that I've always given it is... There are these young filmmakers that had to tell a story before they knew how to tell it. Yeah. And I think that's the quality of Menace to Society. And it made me want to freaking suck a dummy pacifier well into my teen years. I love that character that's got like that dangling pacifier because it's like so much that symbolism of going, these are young kids. Yeah. And it's like on the nose, but it also feels real. Yeah. That he's got this dummy dangling from him that he sucks on. Yeah. And he's a killer. Yeah. And it's just, to me, it's like, that is the real shit, man. Yeah. Like, that's like the story of these young people that are trapped in their world, trying to like make it through their society despite being menaces to it. What do you reckon about the 2 in the title?
It's classic, right? That's, you know, Boys 2 Men, Menace to Society. You know, like you said, it's urgent. Your heart rate is pumping through this whole thing. It doesn't give you a break, you know. It's... Yeah, it's so visceral. It's an incredible film.
And also, like, great cast. Jada Pinkett Smith, Samuel L. Jackson in supporting roles.
So like, early on in their careers.
So early on in their careers. But this is just, like, the one that I'm so glad that it... Because when I was a kid, it always felt like the scarier one of all of those.
Yes, definitely.
Like definitely. Like the one that's more dangerous than all of those. And there's something about that quality that, you know, was very well received at its time. I think... Roger Ebert had in his 10 best films of the year.
Yeah, right.
And now it's like got this deluxe gourmet box set from Criterion Collection.
The highest honor there is.
Absolutely. And for it to be in the last video store, the second highest honor that a film can receive in its physical form. But I would say there's something about it where this film has gone on to become a genuine classic.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel old. That films that I loved growing up and now like
genuine classics.
They're genuine classics, not cult classics, not like, you know, oh, you should see this underseen gem. No, this is a 40-year-old movie basically. Hey. 93. So how old is that? 30.
So I would have been 7 when this came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Me, I was a really tiny baby. Yeah. I was watching it through my dad's eye. And I won't say which eye it was, but I was peeking out of it. All right, babe. That's Menace to Society. Awesome. Any final thoughts on the Hughes Brothers classic?
No, but I would love to borrow this Criterion Deluxe collection off you. And,
well, you know, you're renting it. Yeah. It'll cost you $5.
$5?
Yeah.
What's the late fees?
$1 per day, mate.
Oh,
I go crazy.
Inflation, fucking hell.
Well, I got to stay afloat, man. I got to stay afloat. The rent is not cheap. Even though it's leaking, the rent is not cheap. We've got one more film from you.
One more, which you have... It's always good when you go into the weekly section and there's plenty of copies of everything. Yeah. There's nothing worse when they're all lined up and there's nothing behind them, so they're all out. So it's good that you've got a lot of copies of this.
Yeah.
I think this is one of our shared favourites, Lex.
This is a film that you introduced me to. This is a film titled...
Dinner Rush.
Drama.
From director Bob Giraldi. This is a movie that you introduced me to. And within seconds, I was like, oh my God, this is a favorite movie of mine.
Yeah.
When did Dinner Rush first come into your life? And for those that haven't seen it, give a little bit of a summary of what it is.
To me, Dinner Rush is The Bear Before the Bear, to me. I think we've said it before and we've spoken about it on pods before as well, but Dinner Rush captures the energy and the feeling of working in a restaurant better than any other film that I've seen. Like Menace to Society, it has that sort of grittiness and that urgency in it, and it's that constant adrenaline and stuff's happening, and it's, all right, let's go. And that's really the feeling of what service is like in a restaurant, you know? I really love it because it's a all-in-one night film.
I love that, where it's like that temporal and space. Yep. It's all set in the same time.
All set in the same time. It's almost all location. Shot in the same location. And I just think it's really, really enjoyable and it's really fun and energetic, but there's that sort of dark side to it as well. And, you know, it has the underworld stuff coming into it, and it's just a really, really great story, and it's really well made and shot. And the character actors in it are great. Some of my, you know, I never remember his name. I think it's Eduardo, but from Oz. If you've watched Oz, you would recognize him straight away.
Kirk Acevedo.
Yeah.
I love that actor.
He's amazing. And Danny Aiello's amazing in it as well. And I don't remember how I found it, but I think it was definitely a video store find of, it's a movie about a restaurant, Danny Aiello. I'd probably watched it around the same time as I watched
Do the Right Thing. Well, of course, there's the New York Danny Aiello restaurateur trilogy of Dinner Rush, Do the Right Thing, and Leon the Professional. In all of those movies, he owns an Italian restaurant of some kind, and it's a great trilogy of films to watch.
Yeah, so I think seeing that and going, oh, okay, I'll just give this a try, and then immediately being sucked into it, because I think it would have been when I was around the time I started cooking.
You were on those pots and pans.
I was on the pots and pans. I was like, oh, fuck. And it romanticizes it a little bit, but it's not the over romanticization that we now see in food TV and that kind of stuff. It's very raw and gritty, and that's what working in a restaurant feels like a lot of the time.
And I think what it captures so well, and I'd say this as well, like Bob Giraldi is not a filmmaker you would know straight off the top of your head, but probably inch by inch, mile for mile, the guy has shot more film than anyone else, because he's a TV commercial director, short subject stuff, I think probably music videos as well.
Yeah.
But there's something about his expertise in telling short narrative works that translates so well to a single location film like this. And he's also a restaurateur. He owns the restaurant that it's shot and set in. It's his actual real life restaurant. And the way that he's able to like translate all of that to this film, it's just like the case of a filmmaker being born to make this film.
Yeah.
Because what this film does is there are stories in the kitchen that are happening. There's multiple stories between multiple chefs, like little plot lines and relationships going on between them. There's a story at the bar. There's a story at different tables in the restaurant. Yeah. There's a story behind the scenes, which is Danny Aiello as like the struggling restaurateur wanting to pass this on to his son. But also there's gangsters breathing down his neck. They fucking murked his partner at the start of the movie. So he's like now having to like struggle to like do that, and like he's cooking the books, all this kind of thing. Yeah. There's all these like different levels of stress everywhere, which is also the atmosphere. It captures the atmosphere of being at a restaurant, being behind the scenes in a restaurant, being in the kitchen of a restaurant. And it's just, it's all these little stories that entwine sometimes they're separate. They feed into each other. So it's like this pastiche quality to it as well that I just love. Like, it's so expertly told. It's got this gangster genre element, which is the shit that I froth. And when you showed it to me the first time, I immediately was like, well, I've got to buy a copy of this. And then I've gone through this thing now. If I ever see it, I have to buy it. Yeah. So I've got 3 or 4 copies of this now. 3 of them are sitting in front of us. The first one I bought online. The second one, when Film Club, the iconic last video store in Sydney before it closed down, they had a copy. I was like, well, I'm buying it. And literally the next day I was walking around my suburb. I went into the pawn shop and I saw it in the DVD collection. I go, what the fuck? How is Dinner Rush here? So I had to buy it. And I think that Danny Aiello performance is powerful because there's like this soberly regretful performance from him, and just uses all his expertise, but it's that multi-layered story that makes me keep coming back to it. How do you rate the food in Dinner Rush as well? When I first saw it, I was blown away, like, oh fuck, the fried spaghetti, the vanilla with the lobster and all that. I was like, wow, this is incredible. And it's probably a little bit naff, and I think almost the classic cooking that Danny wants his son to be cooking is more in tune with what I'd actually want to eat. But then seeing the creative outlet and even that battle between the old guard in Danny and a new young creative chef coming up wanting to make his own name and stuff is very relatable for people that cook as well. So seeing that, and then knowing like we use vanilla and shellfish, it's a really classic combination and that kind of thing. So it's stuff that still sticks in my mind to this day. Sausages and peppers, and you know, like I always come back to those things a lot. So it's really great. And like you said, the way that it jumps from you're sitting at the bar with somebody, you're sitting at a table with this person, watching the servers interact and talk about their tables, and then there's access points for, if you've ever been into a restaurant, there's an access point for you in the film. You know, if you're a gangster, there's an access point for you into the film. There's something to grip for everybody, you know, who's ever been in a restaurant experience, whether it's dining or working or seeing it on TV, or, you know, there's something for everybody there. And the way they all coalesce and come together at the end, and it's not telegraphed at all. It's really, really clever. And like you said, it's that overlap of a gangster film and a food film. Your two greatest interests. Fucking right up my alley. Absolutely. So far up your alley. We're going fucking bowling, brother. But it's like that's the shit for me as well. Like, I just think it's got this incredible cast of great New York character actors. Danny Aiello. And by the way, Danny Aiello, one of my favorite actors. If you want to go deep on Danny Aiello, he's got this book that is so fun. He's also done the audiobook version of it. That is worth listening to. But the number one Danny Aiello experience outside of like the classic movies he's all been in, and is he did an episode of the Gilbert Gottfried podcast. Oh, that is. I think you've mentioned this to me before. It's so funny. It's one of the funniest podcasts ever because he's so off the handle. I don't think he knows what a podcast is. So he's saying so much shit. He's talking about how he's like, yeah, Martin Scorsese, I want to bash that guy for not casting me in any of his movies and stuff. And he's like, you know, his friendly banter with all of that. But he's just so funny and so off the handle. I'm going to listen to it on the long drive home from Batuta back to Sydney. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I would say Sandra Bernhard's great in it, playing like this food critic. Yeah, the food critic. That angle as well, like the stress and pressure, and then the little relationship and flirtation between them, and it's so good. It's just expertly made. Yeah. And the most expert thing in this film, like the best utilized player, is there's an incredible utilization of an actor and performance. John Corbett, who people probably know best from Sex and the City, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, The United States of Tara. I've never seen that. But John Corbett,
You had to throw a deep cut in there.
I had to put a little deep cut in
Just
there.
to flex on everybody.
I had to go, yes, I know. He did a 2-season-long TV show with Toni Collette that aired on cable in the late 2000s. I know about it. But I think John Corbett, he's one of the great like rom-com actors. Like he has got that charm.
Yeah.
And the
charm.
way this film uses that is fucking unreal. And it's his movie star performance. Like it's this... I don't want to say anything about it because I think that's one of the joys of discovering this movie is going like, oh, John Corbett. And then you watch it and go, fuck, John Corbett is so good in this film. And it's just that slow release and slow reveal. This film plays pacing so well. It's literally became one of my favorite movies of all time when you showed it to me. I've seen it so many times. Currently, it is our white whale.
It is our white whale, yeah.
We are doing a series of screenings of food movie classics, delectables to devour on screen, cuisine on screen. We're going to be showing the mise en scène of mise en place at the Golden Age cinema. Kicking things off with Taste of Things. It's great, new French. Mitch hasn't seen it yet, so we're going to be
Have you seen it?
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to do it.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
But the latest collaborator and us, we're putting on all these screens of like food movie classics at Golden Age Cinema in Sydney. We're trying to get Dinner Rush. We have to email the director directly. He's an old fella.
We're at that stage, are we?
Yeah, I'm investigating other ways to get in. Like I'm using every skill I have to try and get this movie. So is Ing, the great programmer at the Golden Age. But we've got some other cool ones happening. We have got Goodfellas that we're presenting as a food movie. And we're trying to get some cool docos. Martin Scorsese's Italian-American will be there. A Les Blanc food classic. So it's going to be some cool screenings. Yeah. And I'll let you know. Either it will be revealed that we have got Dinner Rush or have not got Dinner Rush in the intro and outro of this episode. But we're trying. We're trying so hard to screen Dinner Rush. But check it out. There'll be a link in the show notes at Golden Age to come.
The first screening we're doing is on the 23rd.
23rd. So hopefully this is out before then. Yeah. It might not be because we've got some Furiosa episodes to put out that week. But we're doing a few weeks, and a bunch of screenings and stuff. So
and we'll be there to present them and talk shit before them.
Talk smack after them. And it'll be a real treat. It'll be an absolute treat.
Staff pick.
And Mitch, now it has come time to bestow upon you the challenge of a staff pick recommendation. Based on these films, based on your taste, I have triangulated it down to one film that probably like Dinner Rush was a creeper up on me. A film that I hadn't heard about, but jumped in on, and it's one that I've not been able to stop thinking about since I first saw it. It is a gangster film. It had to be after the challenge you've laid upon me here today. And I really want to capture like different feelings that are in all of these things. So while it kind of doesn't have the constant urgency of Menace to Society or Dinner Rush, there is this, it kind of is replaced with a little bit of the deliberate pace and specific pace. Like those are both specifically paced films, but I want to give it a little bit more deliberate pace that you would find in your Dune Part Two. But they're still interspersed with excitement. I also want to find something that plays with time in an interesting way, the way that all of these films play with time in an interesting way. So this is a film that is set over about 10 years, and it starts with young people, high schoolers, in Japan, from one of the great directors, Takeshi Kitano, also known as Beat Takeshi, a comedian that became a serious filmmaker of mainly gangster movies. And The Kid's Return is the name of the film.
Crime.
Kid's Return.
From 1996 from director Takeshi Kitano. So what this film was about is Shinji and Masura are high school students who spend most of the days at school harassing fellow classmates, playing pranks. They drop out and Shinji becomes a small-time boxer while Masaru joins up with a local Yakuza gang. However, the world is a tough place. And this film was set over like a 10-year period of their lives where you kind of follow both of their ascents up their food chain or their respective fields, which is being a gangster and being a boxer, which are entwined every now and then. But it's like their lives taking separate paths. And you see that kind of play out what else is kind of interesting, which is a bit of the dinner rush quality to it, is you also get glimpses into the 10-year lives of some of their classmates and students. We just have these little pastiches where you visit them, like either one is like going on all these dates with this girl at this like little noodle shop where he like fancies the daughter of the worker. Then you've got two other classmates who are more the class clowns who become a comedy duo as they kind of like ascend up the ranks, like doing shit shows and stuff, which is a bit of the life of Takeshi Kitano, who was in a comedy duo called it was Beat Takeshi and Beat something else. I can't remember the name. And so it takes a bit of his story of like him ascending the ranks, becoming Japan's most popular comedian. And this film is interesting because Beat Takeshi Kitano, he was literally Japan's favorite comedian. He was the host of a show called Takeshi's Castle, which you would have seen growing up.
I know Takeshi's Castle, yeah.
Which is like a precursor to like Wipeout, all those kind of like reality challenge shows where people get destroyed by like giant things and stuff. So he was that guy. And then he makes the slip to become a filmmaker, and he makes these like deliberately paced gangster films that have a really dark sense of humor, but they're not comedies. Like they're not gangster comedies. They're like gangster films. Yeah. And there's like this kind of like sad tone to this Kid's Return, like this bleakness. But it's also like you're seeing young people, so there is that kind of energy and that like life about them. He makes this film after being in a very serious motorcycle accident, and to the point where people are like, well, he'll never work again. Wow. He'll never make a film. He, after like extensive physiotherapy and like all this training to get back, he's like half paralyzed. Like his face is like half paralyzed. Shit. And this was the first film he makes coming back. And it's like a big success. It's like one of his more beloved films, but still not as known in the West as some of his other films like Hanabi or Sonatine, like these other gangster classics. But there's something about this film that is about the responsibility, growth, and consequence of growing up, but in a way that feels gentle as well. And this kind of lack of unglamorized excitement that is usually such a big part of the gangster films, but it's like, no, it's like totally unglamorized, but it's like still immersive. The thing that reminds me most of is probably City of God as well, because it's kind of got that 10-year span, but it's also kind of in this like really painterly quality, like something The Godfather would have as well. And the other thing that reminds me most of the first season of the original Heartbreak High with Alex Dimitriades, where he's like also becoming a boxer. Like there's something about that where just like it captures that high school feeling as well.
Had to bring the Greeks back into it, didn't you?
I had to get back to Alex Dimitriades. All roads lead to Alex Dimitriades for me, mate. All roads.
That's
lead
an incredible
back to him.
pick, Lex.
Yeah, I think that you will really dig this. I can't wait to hear what you think.
Sounds very up my alley. And seeing your brain work doing that in real time. Ooh. Very impressive, my friend.
The eyes roll to the back of the head as I check the internal archives. Going, what can we find? Going through the shelves.
Really cool. I can't wait to watch.
Well, Mitch, thank you for jumping in to the very wet and rainy studio here today, the back rooms of the Last Video Store. What have you got cooking up literally and career-wise?
Literally and career-wise, still at KILN, on top of the Ace Hotel in Sydney.
Sydney's best restaurant, I would say.
Oh, thank you, bro. That's very kind of you. Still...
probably between that and the Domino's on the corner of New Canterbury Road and Old Canterbury Road.
Still doing well. Still very proud of the food we're putting out. I think it keeps getting better and better. And my team and head chef Mans do an incredible job. And... yeah, that it makes me very happy and very proud of what we've created. And I've also just opened the Prince Dining Room in St Kilda in Melbourne.
Two cities, Mitch.
Yeah. So I'm back and forward between Sydney and Melbourne now, and that's also going really great. It's an incredible building. That's a real icon of Melbourne, and to be involved in it is really amazing.
To have an icon in an icon, it's like a babushka doll, you know? It's very exciting.
Yeah, so that opened by the time this comes out probably 2 weeks ago.
Oh, baby.
So it's still very fresh, but again, very proud of the food we're putting out. I think it's really tasty and fun and interesting, and we're cooking some pasta again in the bar down there, which is
the
nice.
Prince of Pasta
I'm
returns.
Back, bringing it back, yeah.
What's your favourite noodle shape?
My guilty pleasure is fusilli.
Okay.
The old
Very
spirals.
exciting.
Yeah.
We love those spirals.
And
They soak up a lot of sauce.
Yeah,
you
they
know? How
do.
can
They
you not
do.
love it?
And my current favorite is probably Maffaldini.
Wow, Maffaldini, it is a long noodle. It's
is.
got the ruffles, so it soaks up a lot of stuff. I would say
Exactly.
Maffaldini is the fucking... It's the slurp of the season, man. It's the slurp of the season.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think I've got a couple of guest chef dinners coming up. One at Ito in Surrey Hills in August. One in June at the Refetoro, the Oz Harvest Refetoro on Crown Street.
From Dune Part 2 to June.
Which is, the Refetoro is run by Oz Harvest, which is a food social enterprise / charity, and that's part of Vivid Festival.
Yeah.
So cooking with fully vegetarian menu and cooking with food waste, so to speak, that's donated to Oz Harvest. So that's a really cool one, and that's part of a series with a few other big name chefs. I think there's still some tickets for some of those dinners, so that's a good one to get behind. And yeah, hopefully I'll just keep doing a couple more things with my friends throughout the rest of the year and enjoy it.
Hopefully. And, you know, check out those screens at Golden Age Cinema.
Yes, of course. That's the big one. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And one final thing before we wrap up. How would you cook up a sandworm, man?
Sandworm.
What would you do for a sandworm?
Oh, it's quite a big fucker, isn't it?
Yeah, I would suggest using its piss as an extra ingredient.
As a sauce, yeah.
That blue
sauce.
Blue piss sauce.
That's
And dare I say, let's make it spicy.
Yeah, definitely add some spice. I think, you know, probably barbecue it nice and quick, maybe K barbecue styles, little Sam wrap and little gochujang, and
that's nice.
I think that might be the way.
I think that's pretty good too. And might I say, I would put a little bit of vanilla. I would take a little bit of that dinner rush. That
combine it in.
That fried spaghetti with that beautiful lobster based in a little vanilla bean sauce.
Yeah.
I think there's something in there, a little bit of that going on. I mean, look at me.
You know a thing or two, Lexi. You know a thing or two. I see you flex. I see you on the gram.
Yeah, I'm no stranger to a knife. I mean, I did cut my finger. That's on a sharp knife the other day. But, you know, I'm no stranger to it. I learned from the best.
Very good, bro.
Ian Hewitson, not you. Sorry, mate. Ian Hewitson.
That's who I learned off too, mate. That's one of my very early inspirations.
Oh, absolutely. I saw him make a taleggio lasagna and it never escaped my fucking brain.
The last video store.
So that was my dear buddy Mitch Orr here in the last video store. Thank you, Mitch. I love you, man. I truly, deeply love you, and I'm so glad you joined me here on the show. It was so fun to talk to you about movies. I'm talking to him directly because I know he's listening to this podcast. That's what I'm saying, Mitch. I know that you're listening, so thank you for, 1, doing the show, 2, for listening and supporting me as one of your best friends, and I hope you liked the movie that I recommended you, and... Now let me speak to everybody else. Let's walk through Mitch's combo. His new release was Dune Part 2. Dune Deuce. Oh no. That is a new release, literally. So you can maybe still catch it in cinemas. I recommend IMAX. And it's also on VOD now as well. Dinner Rush. Our shared favorite movie that Mitch introduced me to. You can find it now online, but I'm going to say this. That Cuisine on Screen series that we're doing at Golden Age Cinema, we are screening on the 20th of June. Les Blanc's Yum Yum Yum, A Taste of Cajun and Creole Cooking, and Martin Scorsese's Italian American. So come see that. But we are having so much fun presenting these movies that we want to keep it going. And Dinner Rush has been my white whale to screen for an audience for so long. And I'm just going to say this right now. We are closer than we've ever been to freaking catching that white whale and being able to screen it for you. So keep your eyes on my Instagram and Mitch's Instagram. He's at Instacrill, because we'll be sharing it. And also Golden Age Cinema, our Golden Age, or whatever it's called on there. Golden Age Sydney, I think, on Insta. Because we'll be... I honestly, I believe it. I can taste it. And it tastes good because it's a movie about food. But you can find it online if you're not in Sydney. If you are in Sydney, wait. We're so close. Wait. Menace to Society, one of the best films from my youth and Mitch's. and hopefully your future is on VOD platforms. But I do recommend that 4K Criterion that I showed Mitch here on the show because it looks, whoa, mate. Wowza, yowza, crowza, it's beautiful. And Kids Return, the Takeshi Kitano film, is hard to find. It is hard to find. There's a Blu-ray out there that I own, and the Last Video Store has on its shelves. That's how I recommend you see it. But beautiful, beautiful film. Beautiful film. And if you want your own customized bespoke recommendation from me, from the Last Video Store, all you need to do is tell us your video store rental combo. And the way I'd say do that, best version is in Apple Podcasts. Give it a 5-star review and put in your new release 2 weeklies. And I'm going to give you a recommendation. Do it in a comment on YouTube. Send it as a DM. Even better, comment it as a DM on our socials. And you can find Last Video Store Batuta on Instagram, all that kind of stuff. But now I'm going to be joined by producer Alex to tell me someone's, and I'm going to start thinking about what their recommendation is. So let's welcome producer Alex to give me a recommendation from you, the dear watcher and listener. Oh, Alex, tell us, what do we have here?
The magic of vid. Okay, so today we have a review from Woody's mate. So I don't know what this person's name is, but he's a friend of Woody's.
Okay, Woody. G'day, Woody.
What up?
And g'day, mate.
Friend of Woody. So
God, there's a few Woodies I hope you're not friends with.
Toy Story? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Truly a joy to listen to. The review says, Alexei knows the most about movies out of everyone I have a parasocial relationship with.
Wow, holy smokes. This guy could have parasocial relationships with, I mean, dare I say, a guy called Woody that does know quite a lot about movies.
He is funny, warm, disarming, and genuinely loves talking to people about their favourite movies.
That's true. Thank you for recognising.
This is a must listen for anyone who has enjoyed Alexei's previous work, enjoys movies, or has ever had a conversation.
Whoa, I hope that's almost everybody, I reckon.
Almost everyone.
It's a lot of people.
That's a huge demographic. So, Woody's mates' picks are, my new release is Furiosa.
Oh, of course, one of my favourite movies of the year. It probably is my favourite movie of the year so far.
Huge. My weeklies are Raw.
Oh, okay. It's like a Belgian horror film. Really cool and creepy. Love that film.
Interesting. And Billy Madison.
Bro, what the hell?
Range.
Oh my gosh, I love Billy Madison. This is such a hard combo to reckon with. Oh, you know, the listeners really put me through the heck, and I love it. It's really
do.
It challenges me so much. Okay, well, I know that we gave the recommendation of Tank Girl not too long ago, but instead, that would have been perfect for this too. So imagine if I just said that. No, I'm gonna give you. Furiosa is what I'm latching onto right now. So I'm going to give you something modern, and it's a movie that I think should have been a blockbuster, but wasn't quite a blockbuster. It is from the mind of James Cameron, interpreted through the lens of Robert Rodriguez. It is Alita Battle Angel. I loved Alita Battle Angel. Did you see this, Al?
I've never heard of this.
It's like an android movie. I think it's based on a manga or an anime. But it is when Alita awakens with no memory of who she is in a future world she does not recognize. She's taken in by Ido, a compassionate doctor who realizes that that somewhere in this abandoned cyborg shell is the heart and soul of a young woman with an extraordinary past. Ooh. And it's just like a big kind of like spectacle sci-fi action movie. Lots of cool action. And it was one of those movies I think should have been bigger. You know, same way I feel about Furiosa. Furiosa was such an excellent movie. It's like, it should have been fucking melting the entire world's brain. And I think Alita Battle Angel is the same thing, and I don't think enough people saw it. So hopefully, dear listener, it's a recommendation for you. Put it on your radar, put it in your player, press play, sit back, relax. Actually, don't relax. Sit on the edge of your seat and watch. And until next time, thank you, producer Alex. Thank you to all the listeners and watchers out there. And I encourage you to watch movies. I encourage you to eat food, preferably at KILN, Mitch's beautiful establishment. And if you're in Melbourne or Naarm, enjoy Mitch's food at Prince Dining Room. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.